This is my 99 Yamaha Wolverine 350. I got it, I think 2 years ago, and I got it for $800. And the tires definitely had better tread on them. These things are almost drag slicks now. And it's been one hell of a vehicle. It's not very strong. It's not super over the top powerful, but it's hella reliable and it'll do everything you need it to do. It's been a dependable little fucker. And one thing you can always count on is the touch of the start. As long as it's decent weather outside. Like right now I think it's 25. It'd take a little bit for it to start. But anything above 40 and show this medium, boom, right on up. And anyways, the only thing that gave me trouble is the front diff. It's currently out right now. We have it in 2-wheel drive mode, which is just the CVC shafts chopped in there. I replaced the front bearings during the winter, when I was ripping on it in the winter in the photos and videos and whatnot. And it started developing a tweet. I replaced the wheel bearings. Turns out these things have 2 wheel bearings, one on the outside of the hub and one on the inside of the hub on each side. And then the tweet didn't go away, so I looked it up. It was the diff bearings. That was a fun time because we took them out and it had this weird pinion nut, which if you come in the garage, I'll show you what it looks like. I need to get this project done. But anyways, it's got this weird, that's what was right before the pinion bearing. And there is nothing like that. I went down to the parts store and they told me that what the shop tells them to do if they ever have to replace it is they need a homemade specialty tool #1. That was the exact description that it gave. So we're just gonna air hammer the old one out and put the new one in. Tried hitting it with all sorts of things. We couldn't get it to bust loose. The only other problem I had is when I waterlogged the bike and we were using the starter to turn the motor over to push all the water out of the spark plug hole. My starter gave out, but it was the original starter that was on it, so it's got that new boy and it works nice. The only other issue I've had really is I finally replaced the battery. It finally gave out after about 2 years owning it too, which it was the stock battery that was in there. And when I bought it off my uncle's neighbor who had just bought it off a dude for like $400. It's been sitting in his barn for years. So and then it sat in his barn for a year until he sold it for me for $800. And everything on it, the tires, the battery that came stock, all ran super good. After about a week of owning it, I busted this off a while back, but after a week of owning it, it has this weird switch. And anyways, what it is if you come down here, there is a plug. I think it's one of them ones, but I had to unplug it because it has a parking brake safety switch, which means if the parking brake is engaged, it won't go anywhere. So you can rev the shit out of the throttle and it'll almost act like it's not getting gas or something. So it'll just be it's weird. But anyways, I unplugged that about a week after I owned it. It's been super solid. I never had rear brakes either. Front brakes worked pretty good. And yeah, this thing has been a steady, reliable little bit of a beast. Over the course of it sitting for the last couple months while I waited for that special pinion nut to come in, it developed a weird thing where I think the valve seals are bad, because when you start it up, here, I'll go ahead and start this thing up for y'all. And yeah, I think the fuel, I always keep that on. I don't have a problem with the carburetor flooding out. Pull the choke down here, pump a couple if I can pump some gasoline into it. Hey, it's not smoking as bad as it was the last 2 days. spark plug wrench in there, bottles of water in there. That's pretty much it, but it can hold all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and shut the choke down. Don't die. Don't do it. Like I said, it's a fog machine for like the first 2 minutes of it being on, but then it'll burn all of it off and it'll be like it never even has a problem. That's it. That's it. Really. It's been a pretty solid, reliable vehicle. Only ever did an oil change one time. I actually need to do it again before we get into the ripping season. I said I was going to have footage of me ripping the shit out of it, but quite frankly, it's like 25 degrees outside. I'm in coveralls and I am fucking freezing. And, yeah. That's my Yamaha Wolverine 350 4x4 review. It's been a good bike. Only has, little easy to fix issues. The only real thing that caused any sort of trouble, and it took me about a week to find out, was that switch. If you guys have a parking brake switch, or if you guys have an issue where when you go to take off, it just doesn't want to do anything and has absolutely no power and it's cutting out, it's that parking brake switch, which for sure is a little wire. I think I either had to cut it or I unplugged the sensor, but it's definitely up underneath of the, follow it down, it'll come up underneath there. Like I said, I wanted to blame that sensor right there. Quite frankly, it doesn't look unplugged, so I don't know where I found it, but it's right up there in the neck of all them, like where all the wires go down. The headlights, for some reason, the low beams are better than the high beams. And it doesn't look like it. Definitely look like it got a little bit brighter, but I'll tell you right now on the road, for sure low beams are better. And the headlights aren't exactly perfect. I would not do no night riding unless you had to. It's even got a little tail light back here, and it works. And it's got a little like pocket. Set all sorts of stuff in there. We used to set our toe straps in there. I don't know why I got gloves and an old water bottle though. Anyways, that's been it, guys. Yeah.